Well, hey, Todd, thanks for giving me a few minutes. I wonder if you could just start, tell me a little about yourself, what you've been up to, how old are you, and all those, what's going on with your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, my name is Todd McKie. Um, I am 34 years old. I worked as a student ministry resident at Prescott Christian Church for the last 2 years, but the previous 2 years before that, I was volunteer staff with the high school group as a small group leader. Lately, I have been staying busy with working on vehicles and been helping friends out and trying to get back into volunteering through a camp right now. So yeah,
Very cool.
one
Very
stay in
cool.
the ministry doing all that stuff.
What'd you spend your 20s doing? Tell me about your 20s.
I spent my 20s, my later 20s, I was in flight school. I in 2013, I decided that I was going to quit my job and go to flight school and get some schooling behind me and kind of pursue that path. But I finished all the way up into not being a CFI. I worked as hard as I could, got up there, just couldn't pass the CFI. But I'm still a weekend warrior flying. Early 20s, I was kind of uh, an animal, party animal, kind of lived that life, did that thing, experienced that because let's just back up a tiny bit more. I was homeschooled from fourth grade. So I wasn't as involved in those things that kids experience in high school and stuff. So I kind of did that in my 20s thinking that I was fulfilling some missed opportunity, which not true.
That's awesome. Tell me about your couple years as a resident. Where did you start? I'm always interested in where did you start and your ideas and who you were and how did it finish out 2 years later? What'd you learn?
Yeah, so I started. Like I said, I started volunteer as a small group, high school, and I was working as a grocer for Whole Foods. But I'd always felt a really strong calling to ministry, and that opportunity was presented to me with a residency program that was offered at the church I was at, and I was able to land that and get into being a resident, a student resident, learning ministry through the church. I started with a very basic knowledge of student ministry. Thought I was going to be working directly with high schoolers because that's where my heart is, and I was actually pushed or kind of handed a junior high ministry that was smaller, needed some work, needed some changes, and came into it with doors wide open that said, "Hey, man, whatever you can do to change this, or if there's any ideas, it's all yours." And so I came in and worked alongside with the youth pastor, and we made some quick changes of a few things, and that allowed that ministry to grow. And it is now, 30 plus kids on a youth group night, which is awesome from where it started, which was nothing. So I learned that just finding volunteers who are willing to really, chase after that vision that you're trying to create with junior high definitely helps what you're trying to push. Like we worked really hard to get away from showing videos on Sunday mornings and get somebody up front teaching and preaching to these kids. And I am happy to say that I was a big push for that ministry to be able to do that. And now it's thriving and doing great. And I still get to go every couple of Sundays, once or twice a month, and I still get to go help out in that ministry.
Fantastic. When you think about what you learned, this final question, when you think about what you learned, and you think about this things you still have to learn, you still are, we're all learning, right, for the rest of our lives. But what do you think in terms of your skill set of, you think about the basic skills, teaching, communication, organization, creativity, these things, convincing, building teams, convincing people to serve. When you think of that skill set, what do you think you're strongest in moving forward right now? And where are you still, you feel like there's a little gap, or you still have some stuff you're not as strong or you're not as confident in other things? Can you give me your top couple and bottom couple of those things?
Sure. Let me start by saying relational ministry is probably very high on my list. I come from a church and a ministry that was very relational. I mean, you met one-on-one with every volunteer. You know, once a week you were meeting people, or multiple times throughout the weeks you were meeting, just getting on track, just seeing how people are feeling, just what do they have ideas. I come from, like I said, very relational, and I'm believe I'm very good at that.
Yeah.
And team building. I come from a youth pastor who is awesome at team building. I've never seen somebody work as well as they do, but it's a very, very basic thing. And it's, hey, let me take you to Starbucks. Let's grab coffee. I'm going to tell you, you know, the need I need and how this works, and then come and visit. It's a really simple process, but it's so effective.
Yeah.
So my team building is really good. Communication is pretty high on the list too. I've learned a lot with junior high that you have to be in communication with parents. You cannot leave that as a blank. If you leave parents out or out of the picture, or you don't fill them in on what's going on, you're gonna get slaughtered. I mean, in the ministry, you have to. So communication, team building, and relational. Very relational. I like people. I'm an extrovert, and I, you know, so I strive to be that. Where I gap, man, this is always the tough question. But where I gap, I can take both, and I can kind of do both. I haven't been able to really do team building or volunteer on my own. I haven't had that opportunity to do it myself. I've always had somebody else there kind of holding my hand along the way. And I haven't had that ability to do my own one-on-ones and figure out what works best for me personally. So that's something I definitely still need to work on. And then just I need more confidence when working on and building the what I'm gonna say for preaching and teaching.
Sure.
I don't have a ton of knowledge with all of that, but I was doing my best to become better and more efficient at it by meeting, you know, weekly with the senior pastor of the church I was at, trying to have meetings. He would bring me alongside for his sermon planning so that we could kind of trade thought processes on that. So that's definitely a gap for me, but that's something I'm striving to work for.
Final question. When you think about 3 years from now, if I ran out in a time travel machine, followed you around, came back and showed you the video and the pictures, what's the dream? What's the Todd McKie 3 years from now? What do you want to be doing?
I want to be serving the Lord. I want to be in a church where I can use what God has given me, my gifts, and just be alongside with either, if that's high school or junior high. I mean, you're asking what my dream is. My dream's high school. I love those kids. I'm up to date on current culture, and you know, I try to stay with what's going on with them so that I can be the most effective towards them. So my dream is absolutely to be in ministry with high schoolers in a thriving youth group and a church that's just willing to support student ministry.
It's fantastic, man. Thanks.